We're coming to the finale of the evening, the reason we're all here. So if you'd take your seats again, and I'll ask Jeff to join me on the stage. The 9 organizations and 13 leaders we are about to honor are exemplary social entrepreneurs, individuals whose innovative ideas, coupled with the drive, tenacity, and determination that characterizes all great entrepreneurs, are solving tough problems all over the world. Bart Weechen's APOPO. APOPO's innovation is simple to grasp, by the scruff of the neck, actually. APOPO trains African giant pouched rats to detect landmines and the presence of tuberculosis. To date, APOPO's hero rats have cleared 400,000 square meters of mined land, facilitating the return of 50,000 internally displaced people to their homes. In addition to landmine detection, APOPO's rats have also been trained to identify TB. In one test run of 29,000 patients, more than 2,000 additional positive samples were detected than had been identified through traditional means. Ladies and gentlemen, Bart Weechens.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, Sally, all Skoll community. Let me use this opportunity to share with you how APOPO will use this Skoll grant to advance our work. Since late 2007, APOPO is in the process of transitioning from a project-oriented, time-bound, non-profit organization into a sustainable social enterprise with a long-term vision. APOPO is becoming an African center of excellence. APOPO will focus on being the best in detection rat technology and will develop, promote, and manage high-quality standards. The Center of Excellence is supported by APOPO's R&D and training strategy to advance best practices in detection rat technology and to maintain our market leadership position. With the endorsement of 11 governments in the African Great Lakes region, APOPO will expand operations in sub-Saharan Africa, providing detection services to both humanitarian demining organizations and public health programs. And by doing so, increase the ratio of earned income versus grants and continue building credibility through proven impact. APOPO will lay the foundation for the next generation, building a large citizen-based supporters group worldwide through our Hero Rat adoption program. Yes, by the way, you can actually adopt a rat online, and you can receive letters from your rat. Actually, this is only one of the strategies in branding. We will actually further disseminate the know-how in detection rats technology through our trainers curriculum at Sokoine University of Agriculture in Tanzania. You actually should see the self-esteem in the eyes of our trainers who go and work in Mozambique. Before they were actually depending on foreign expertise, and now themselves have become experts and go and deploy their expertise abroad in other African countries. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that what we dream of reversing this spiral of dependency into empowerment? Yes, indeed. It's a dream come true. Empowerment of vulnerable communities by teaching animal training skills is for APOPO the most direct way to impact and scale up. The Skoll grant is exactly what APOPO needs at this moment in order to build the required organizational capacity. In the name of the communities we serve, I thank you very much indeed.
Sue Riddleston, and Puran Desai, Bioregional Development Group. Many of us dream, as Dr. Pachori described it, of how to live sustainably without having to surrender many of the modern conveniences we've come to depend upon. Bioregional is proving that this dream can, in fact, be reality today. Bioregional has helped build one of the few zero-carbon communities in the world. They have created technologies and practices that use local renewable and waste resources to meet society's needs. They've proven it's possible for all people to live comfortably using only their fair share of the Earth's resources, what they call one planet living. Due in large part to Bioregional's work, the UK government has adopted a zero-carbon target for new homes by 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Riddleston and Puran Desai.
Well, thank you so much on behalf of Puran and all of us at Bioregional. This award's going to make a fantastic difference to us and enable us to expand our work internationally. We've heard today from Dr. Pachori how much we need to do something about climate change. We all know this. We all know we need to reduce our ecological footprint. If everyone in the world lived like we do in Europe, then we'd need 3 planets to support us. We need to live within our fair share of the resources of our one planet. But what we found is that if you tell people they need to reduce their footprint by 2/3 and their carbon emissions by 90%, then they think this is too difficult. They think, oh, I'm going to have to go and live in a teepee and give up everything, and I just can't take that cut in my quality of life. But what we found is if you show them what it's like in a real-life setting, and people can see it's actually attractive, even better, then they're more willing to make the change. And as Sally says, we found that this makes the difference, not just for individuals, but for policymakers and the industry. So the Skoll Award will support us to work with partners in China and Africa on real-life One Planet communities. Sharing knowledge with projects from the UK to North America, these neighbourhoods will show that One Planet living is attractive and affordable. And we'll bring these stories to Copenhagen and to other policymakers and make the tools available on the web so that anyone can make their own One Planet plan. And what I really love about this work is the spirit of international cooperation, this idea of joining hands around the world to show that this is what our future could be like. Thank you very much.
Gideon Bromberg, Nader Khatib, and Munketh Mehyar, Echo Peace, Friends of the Earth, Middle East. The Middle East is a region fraught with conflict, where working across borders can be considered traitorous and nearly always carries great personal risk. Echo Peace is the only social benefit organization in the region operating with a tri-national structure, its model of shared leadership an emblem of hope for the region. Echo Peace's Good Water Neighbors initiative has paired 17 communities across borders to make a potential source of conflict water, a wellspring for cooperation. Echo Peace is also leading an initiative to create a transboundary Jordan River Peace Park on an island through which the Israel-Jordan border currently runs. Ladies and gentlemen, Gideon Bromberg, Nader Khatib, and Munketh Mehyar.
Thank you very much. We're very, very honored to receive this award. I want to share with you a story from one of our communities, a story about a school teacher that is participating in a parents' teachers' night, where one of the parents stands up and charges that the teacher is a collaborator, that the school principal is working with the enemy, and that everyone in the room in the parents-teacher night should get up and leave. The school principal has to defend himself. He has to defend himself because indeed he brought Palestinian, Jordanian, and Israeli children to learn about each other's shared water resources. He helped train youth, Palestinian, Jordanian, Israeli, how to build rainwater harvesting facilities. And in fact, he even accepted that they build such facility in his own school. So he responded and he stood up and he raised his voice and he said to the parent, "I'm the collaborator. I've brought water resources to our children. I've empowered our youth to understand that they can contribute, that they themselves can make a difference. They don't need to wait to end of conflict. I have enabled that your children don't need to come to school with a bottle of water, because water is not guaranteed every day when you turn on the tap." It's not surprising that the only parent that left the room was that charged the school teacher, the school principal, of collaboration. Empowering, indeed empowering, those of the silent majority of our peoples, Palestinian, Jordanian, Israeli, is what we do. And we do it through the shared water resources that are all over our region. With the Skoll Award, we're going to be having access to more communities, to more school principals, empowering teachers and students and mayors to understand and to take responsibility, that they can make a difference, that they can, from the bottom up, build the peace that we so desperately need in the Middle East. I thank you very, very much.
Martine von Hildebrand, Fundación Gaia Amazonas. Nobody knows how to sustain vital ecosystems better than the indigenous people who've lived there for generations. Yet policies around the world routinely disempower, marginalize, or slaughter native peoples, often in the name of progress. In the Amazon, the result has been massive deforestation, in turn, an enormous driver of global climate change. Gaia Amazonas helps local indigenous people regain their rights and lands, manage their own education and health, and design and implement environmental management plans. With Gaia Amazonas' help, over 80,000 indigenous people from more than 50 ethnic groups have been given legal title to more than 25 million hectares of the Colombian Amazon, the largest contiguous property owned by indigenous peoples in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Martine von Hildebrand.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Sally. It's a very special moment for me tonight. I have been accompanying indigenous people in the Colombian Amazon for nearly 40 years. And we have worked, as Sally mentioned, we have worked in getting their rights recognized, the land rights recognized, their property over an area larger than the United Kingdom. We have worked with them so they can put into practice their programs. They can sit with the authorities of national government, set up public policies, set up local governance in a new way, in a way that's based on the indigenous traditional knowledge. And now we're confronted with climate change. And as we know, the Amazon forest is threatened. And indigenous people have an enormous role to play there. They have an enormous role to play, not only because they can care for the land, they live the land, they own the land, but also because they have this knowledge that they have developed over 10,000 years of living with the forest. But obviously, they will not be able to do it on their own. And those that have been working with them will not be able to do it. So we'll have to get together and think together and work together. And this is where the Skoll Foundation comes in. This is where they offer new possibilities, new spaces, and new optimism. Thank you very much.
Soraya Salti, Injaz al-Arab. In the Middle East, 70% of the population is below the age of 25, and most of them do not and will not find jobs. School curricula remain traditional, leaving graduates unprepared to compete effectively in a global market or to create the businesses that will generate new jobs on the scale required. Injaz's innovative approach engages leaders from the private sector to introduce entrepreneurship, work, and life skills education into the school systems throughout the Middle East. Injaz has reached more than 300 youth in the Arab world, engaged more than 10,000 volunteers from the corporate world, and expanded the programs from Jordan to 11 other Middle Eastern and North African countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Soraya Salti.
I want my colleague and partner, Akif Akrabawi, to stand up with me this evening. Thank you. Well, I want to start with a story. In 2001, there was a group of young girls coming into our office from all across Jordan. And one of them was completely veiled. The only two sparkling things that I could see were two black eyes in front of me. And I was trying to understand what she was trying to say to me, but the scarf kept bobbing up and down, and I finally said, "Could you just please draw for me what Injaz means to you?" And she drew this bright yellow sun and called it Injaz, and drew a boy, not even a girl, with short sleeves and shorts. And then she wrote on the side, and she said, "I look to the outstanding, to the freedom full with energy and power. This is what I want, and this is the life I want to live." And she signed it Sousan Petra School. It was such an incredible experience for me, just to see her soul and what she was crying for, to be liberated. The private sector volunteer, a female walking into her classroom in Petra, her only hope to equip her with the skills she needs to break out and to break through. What is most incredible about Arab youth is how excited and thrilled they are to see a glimpse of hope, and they hold on to it with their life to take on that opportunity. All we've done is just open the door for private sector leaders like Fadi Ghandour, who's here this evening, and his staff, to just tap into the energy and enthusiasm of the Arab world's youth, the excitement that they have. They want to explore and to see what strengths they have and to live productive lives. This Skoll Award will help us reach 1 million Arab youth. We are coming to Libya. You're going to help me. Yemen, Algeria, and Syria. And also to empower as many youth as we can and mobilize as many business leaders across the Arab world. Thank you so much for this award.
Juan Mendez and Paul Van Zyl, International Center for Transitional Justice. Few people predicted the peaceful transition from apartheid rule to democracy that we've witnessed in South Africa over the last 15 years. Much of the credit goes to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the visionary transitional justice approach that helped a nation deal with the legacies of past atrocities and heal its people. The International Center for Transitional Justice has now taken this innovative methodology global, bringing transitional justice specialists and practitioners together from diverse contexts to share knowledge, offer comparative advice and technical assistance, and build local capacity. ICTJ has helped create transitional justice systems in more than 35 countries, healing millions of human beings who thought they were beyond redemption. Ladies and gentlemen, Juan Mendez and Paul Van Zyl.
Thank you very, very much. When the military expelled me from Argentina after torturing and detaining me without trial, I was obsessed with stopping torture, liberating political prisoners, and finding the desaparecidos, those taken from their families never to be seen again. At the end of the dictatorship, the mothers and the relatives of the disappeared were not only asking to have their loved ones returned to them, they also wanted to know the truth and to see justice done. My unforgettable mentor, Emilio Mignone, articulated this demand as intrinsic to the nature and quality of the new democracy we were building. Truth and justice is the name that victims give to what others, in more abstract terms, like to call the rule of law. Much later, as Kofi Annan's special advisor on the prevention of genocide, I saw firsthand in Darfur that justice, as an antidote to impunity for mass atrocities already committed, must play a central part in our efforts to prevent new violations from happening. The ICTJ and our partners in 35 countries work specifically in this new horizon of human rights protection. We assist societies moving from dictatorship to democracy or from conflict to peace, and we assist them to reckon with legacies of egregious human rights violations. I am proud to work with dedicated, talented activists and scholars, all of them my ICTJ colleagues, but also many partners around the world. It is great to see new generations take on the fight for human rights, renew it with fresh ideas, and teach a few things to those of us who are no longer human rights rookies. I find it especially rewarding to work shoulder to shoulder with Paul Van Zyl, a brilliant, resourceful, highly organized dynamo of a human rights activist and a justice entrepreneur. Thank you very much.
Wendy Kopp, Teach for All. Fresh college graduates looking for meaningful work. Underserved schools needing inspired teaching. Why not bring them together? Since Teach for America's inception in 1900, 20,000 young teachers have dramatically improved learning for 3 million disadvantaged students. Today, more than 35,000 outstanding graduates each year apply to Teach for America, competing for 3,000 coveted slots. Teach for All extends Teach for America's innovative model overseas. Working with local partners, Teach for All recruits recent top college graduates, trains them to be successful teachers in disadvantaged communities, and fosters their ongoing leadership in addressing educational inequity. Ladies and gentlemen, Wendy Kopp.
Thank you. Our work at Teach for All is inspired by two things. The first source of inspiration is the most salient lesson we have learned through our work at Teach for America, which is that we can solve this problem of educational inequity. I know I came into this, and most people who join Teach for America come into this out of a sense of idealism. You know, they think this is an unconscionable problem and that we have to do something about it. But what we realize through our work is that not only is it an unconscionable problem, and not only do we need to do something about it, but we can do something about it and in fact can solve it. We see that in the classrooms of teachers who, even in their first and second years, put their kids on a completely different academic trajectory. We see it now in the work of some of our alumni who are pioneering the development of a new generation of schools that are taking whole schools full of kids in urban and rural communities in our country and truly putting them on a trajectory to graduate from college at the same rates as kids in privileged economic environments. And now we see the possibility of true system-level change through the work of other alumni who are serving as school superintendents, as social entrepreneurs, and as policymakers. We have the problem of educational inequity not because children in low-income communities and children of color aren't motivated or can't do the work, not because their parents don't care, but because we as a society have not given them the opportunities they deserve. We can solve that, and if we can, then we must. The second source of inspiration behind Teach for All is the inspired, passionate social entrepreneurs in countries all around the world, from India to Chile, to South Africa, to Germany, to the Baltics, to Estonia, who believe that in this theory of change, who believe that recruiting their nation's most promising future leaders to commit 2 years to teach in their highest poverty communities will be life-changing for the kids they reach, and will also be a fundamental force for long-term change through producing leaders who understand what you understand after you've taught successfully in a low-income community, which is that we can solve this problem, and who know how to solve it. And knowing that they will go on and work from inside of education, but also ultimately from every sector at every level of policy to effect the fundamental changes necessary to ultimately truly eliminate educational inequity. We can realize a world in which all children have the opportunity to attain an excellent education. And the question really is whether our response to the problem is commensurate with the magnitude of the problem. We believe, and those social entrepreneurs, and I have to just say that this award really is a tribute to their efforts. We know that the answer to the question of whether we'll solve the problem lies in whether enough of our society's most promising future leaders will step up and say, we're going to lead us to that day. Thank you, Skoll, for your vote of confidence.
Jordan Cassillo, Vision Spring. For most of us here, the need to don a pair of reading glasses is a minor affair. In the developing world, where millions depend on precision work, the degraded vision associated with aging threatens livelihoods and leads inexorably to poverty. Vision Spring has created a market-based, scalable model for delivering quality glasses to the rural poor, using its business-in-a-bag innovation as a ready-to-go micro-franchise. Together with its partners, Vision Spring supports nearly 1,000 vision entrepreneurs who earn or supplement their livelihoods selling reading glasses. These micro-franchises, in turn, bring the blessing of sight and affordable price to millions of the rural poor. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Cassillo.
It is with deep honor that I accept this award on behalf of the entire Vision Spring family. 4 members who are with us tonight who must be recognized. I'll ask you to stand. Peter Eliason and Miriam Stone, Graham McMillan, and my wife, Erica Cassillo, and my best friend. I'd like to share a formative story that helped me discover the work of Vision Spring. I met Maria Lopez in 1984 in rural Mexico. She came into our clinic with her Bible clutched to her chest, and her simple request was she would like to be able to read that Bible for the first time in 10 years. She went 10 years without reading her Bible. I looked at her eyes and quite simply determined that all she needed was a simple pair of eyeglasses, the kind that you can buy at a drugstore on the corner for under $10 here in the United States. We put the glasses on her face, and instantaneously, after 10 years, she was able to read her Bible again. She was overwhelmed with emotion. She hit the floor, she hugged my legs and started to cry. And I remember that moment was one of the moments where I felt the most alive in my life. It was a very powerful moment. By the way, this is another one. Thank you. The next day, I got to the clinic, and Maria Lopez was first in line. And my thought was, oh gosh, I gave her the wrong glasses, I screwed up. And she found her way over to me, and she said to me, Doctor, to you perhaps these are just a pair of glasses, but to me, you've given me back my God. That's one story. There are 400 million people around the world who need simple eyeglasses so that they can see to work, so they can see to read, so they can see to learn. This award fortifies our unstoppable determination. It will enable us to provide vision, opportunity, and hope to hundreds of thousands of Maria Lopez's. For this, Jeff and Sally, we are forever grateful. Thank you very much.
Gary White, Water Partners International. Water is life, but increasingly scarce as sources dry up or are depleted all over the world. Microfinance is a proven means of economic development, but there hasn't been any obvious way to connect the two until now. By brokering relationships with social benefit organizations and microfinance institutions, Water Partners structures loan products that enable the poor to secure the clean water and sanitation solutions that best meet their needs. Water Partners programs have dispersed more than $1.6 million in support of water credit initiatives to benefit directly more than 110,000 people. Water Partners has 10 active water credit programs globally, as well as a growing network of 23 local partner organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary White.
Thank you. I'm honored, and it's such a pleasure to be here to accept this award on behalf of all of those at Water Partners and water.org, but more importantly, on behalf of the 1 billion people around the world who still lack what you and I take for granted. That's safe, clean water. The Skoll grant will help us to accelerate our water credit initiative. This means a greater number of people will be empowered to achieve access to clean water and access adequate sanitation through affordable credit. We'll do this by continuing to attract new and existing microfinance institutions into the water and sanitation space. One vivid example of this is Guardian. We helped Guardian launch in 2007 as a spin-off of the Indian NGO Gramalia. We believe it's the first MFI set up to lend into the water and sanitation space and target urban slum dwellers. It was early water credit pilot programs that provided the proof that the poor are a viable market for water and sanitation microcredit loans. Without this proof, Guardian would never have launched. Now, last year, Guardian broke new ground once again. It was able to access $1.6 million in private capital from commercial lending institutions in India and rapidly scale up its portfolio for water and sanitation loans. The Skoll grant will allow us to push the charity-driven water sector toward models that incorporate commercial capital. We'll continue attracting microfinance institutions to the water sector through our smart subsidy model, allowing them to better understand the market and build relationships with borrowers. We will provide credit enhancements where necessary and then exit as these institutions begin to independently source commercial financing for their portfolios. We believe we can lead in making financing for water and sanitation services for the poor both affordable and ubiquitous. Thank you.